You're listening to the TWOBUCKS podcast, the podcast for outdoor entrepreneurs.
Little by little, I was getting the sense of my time isn't my time.
Just kept feeling this pull to the outdoors and wanting to do something in the outdoor space.
Welcome back to another TWOBUCKS podcast. I'm your host, Brian Krebs, and today I have Earl Stroh from Cutter Stabilizers on the podcast. And I believe I saw your page because my wife and I just started our first 3D archery league together. You know, I've shot league in the past, but she's getting done with school and residency, and she bought a new bow this year, and now she wanted to shoot league, kind of meet some new friends up by her new house and stuff. And so target archery's been on the mind. Obviously, it's super fun to just look at all the new stuff out in the archery space. And that's when I stumbled across your page, and I'm like, this is a really cool brand, and you're doing a lot of cool things. So I thought it'd be great to have you on the podcast and kind of share your story. And with that, how are you doing today?
Good. Yeah, thanks. I appreciate you having me on. Doing good. Finally wrapped up hunting season here. I just got back from a Nebraska hunt. Season ended the end of the year on the 31st. I ended up shooting my biggest whitetail buck to date on the 29th after a really long season. So it's pretty awesome to finally connect on one.
Congrats. Yeah,
Thank you.
Man, like bow hunting's hard, right? I mean,
Yeah,
so many people on the Outdoor Channel make it look like 160s just walk out into your food plot every year. And
Yep.
it is just not that case.
No, it's super hard. And that was my 5th trip out. It's I figured about 3,100 miles I put on my truck going out there and back. Yeah, started out right around Halloween and hunted that week, hunted the first week of November, hunted the first week of December, and then went back out a little late season action. I'd actually put away all my stuff because that first week of December, I didn't see a single deer in almost 3 days of hunting. So I was just like,
my gosh.
It's not in the cards, it's freezing my butt off out here and didn't see a single freaking deer and went home, put away all my crap, did all my laundry, and you got 3 weeks of season left. I couldn't leave that out there on the table, so I ended up going out and the evening of the first day, this buck that we had on camera one time all season ended up coming in right at last light. Shot him at 13 yards, and he went 178 inches.
Wow, that's incredible.
Awesome,
so you must be from like the Oklahoma, Kansas, Missouri ring, somewhere around there?
So we're in Colorado. We're in Denver.
Colorado. Oh,
yep.
I was one off. Okay, so you're going east to find like whitetail ground, basically.
Yep. Yeah, there's whitetail in Colorado. It's just it's all the eastern side of the state, and it's all private, and haven't really branched out to figure access and all that stuff out there. We've got 3 different properties in Nebraska that we're able to hunt. Nice. So we do that, and we're still trying to figure something out here in Colorado, but it's all it's a draw process, so it takes preference points. You get a point per year, and to get into some of those good eastern side of the state units, it's 3 or 4 years, where that Nebraska is just an over-the-counter tag.
Nice. Is that like family farms then growing up, or how did you find places to get out in Nebraska?
Yeah, so my business partner Brandon, he was lucky enough to marry into a family that had some land out there, so we got his father-in-law's farm, and then a couple buddies. It's kind of cool. Nobody really bow hunts out there, so we have a lot of the season all to ourselves. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, when they got married, you just said, I'm a package deal, just so you know.
Exactly.
I'm happy for your love, but this is business. I need tree
That's
stands.
right. That's right. Yep.
Ask these important questions before you buy a ring.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yep.
Man, you made out the best.
I know. Well, that was the thing is, this was the first year that I really decided that I was going to shoot one of 4 deer. We had 4 shooters on camera.
Okay.
Previously, this is only like my 7th year whitetail hunting, so I'm newly addicted to it. But, previously it's, a mature 8-point it's on the ground, it's dead. But
right.
This year I really made an effort to hold out for for one of those bigger deer. And it's kind of funny. I was spending most of my time hunting this big 8-point, you know, it's 150-inch 8-point, you know, nice deer for Nebraska, nice deer for really anywhere.
Right.
But we had that. He is actually a 14-point. We had him on camera one time. It was October 28th. So I didn't even know if he was a resident deer. We thought he was just kind of, you know, in the area for the rut. Didn't see another single picture of him until I shot him that night on the, you know, third to last day of the season. So it was a pleasant surprise. I didn't even know it was that deer until I walked up on him.
Wow. That's, you know, that, how lucky. I mean, you obviously put in an like insurmountable amount of time, and so it's not luck. You were there, you did all the right things.
Sure.
But just like the number of times that we've had a trail camera picture of like a single buck and never saw that deer again.
Oh, I know.
With like 7 people hunting a farm.
Yep.
Right? Like they just they don't go where you want them to ever. Like,
oh, I know.
unless you're like the Drury's that they just make it work.
Sure.
And I'm sure if they had it on the podcast, they'd say, no, man, we don't just make it work. It's hard too. You know, it's always hard, but
Oh, of course.
yeah, they just like, you know, to have that one picture and then he comes back right at the like pretty much the last moment. Like, if we're being honest,
very lucky. Yeah.
4 months long season and you had 2 days
Yep.
left in the season. Yeah, that's
very
that is
lucky for sure. Yep.
awesome.
But like I was talking to a couple buddies about that, and that type of buck, you know, 5-year-old or older buck, he's one that you either kill on your first sit of the season because you know exactly where he's going to be, or you sit your ass in that tree for 4 months and hope to get lucky. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
I suppose
kind of a
won't-
one or the other.
it is. I mean, it is. We've done it a couple times, picked out specific deer, but I typically I would say I'm a flock hunter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I kind of have a threshold and kind of like you alluded to, like, you know, mature for us at our farms, like 3-year-old that try to be more on the 4-year-old side. But typically I'm not picking on a specific buck and hunting it because we just have what we
Sure.
have. We have our farm, some bucks move in, some bucks move out. I can't, like, if he leaves, I can't follow him to the neighbors.
Right.
You
Yep.
know, so it's kind of hard sometimes. But this year, last few years, I've picked bucks and unfortunately they didn't read the script. And I was, you know, 50 yards short of taking out, not as big as your buck by any means, but probably a 160 to 165 10-pointer.
Yeah, oh, it's a heck of a deer still.
50 yards
You know,
away,
and it took, it's tough, man. And I had 3 opportunities to shoot that big 8, and it just never came together. You know, the first one was the first sit of my season. I had him, long story short, I did a hang and hunt with a saddle. It was my first day hunting with a saddle, and I put myself in a tree that didn't give myself very many good shooting lanes. I had him at 20 yards for a minute and a half, and I didn't have a shot.
Oh, wow.
And then I saw him 2 more times, had him at 50 yards on the other side of the river bottom that didn't give me a shot. And it was just, you know, it's frustrating. It was tough to have it that close, but not quite, you know?
Yeah. And well, it turned out in the end, I mean, a buck of a lifetime. Hopefully not. Hopefully you find a bunch more like that. But for the average hunter to be knocking on the door of 180, I don't suppose you'll keep those antlers, you know, at all. You just probably cut them off.
I
and
actually
left them out
just
in the
chopped
woods.
them up and gave them to my buddy's dog.
Yeah, dog chews.
Yeah. No, we're doing.
That's awesome.
I'm gonna do a wall pedestal with them. Should look really cool.
I did a wall pedestal with an elk one time,
Mm-hmm.
and if it wasn't for how much space they take up, especially like an elk, I mean, it takes up like a 4 by 6 foot area, but man, does it show the animal really well.
Yeah.
I think you're gonna love
that's it's super cool. And I'm gonna do the same angle that he was, because he was looking back over his shoulder at me when I drew. He was 13 freaking yards away. He's probably gonna see you, you know. And I'm excited to get that back. I mean, it sucks. It's gonna take a year to get the dang thing, but you know, whatever.
Well, hopefully, do you have the skull cap?
I do.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
At least you can get the skull cap. I mean, when you get a set of
I
antlers
know.
like that, it's hard to just leave them at some dude's house for 12 months.
Yeah, that was not happening. So I made sure to get that. Yep.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. So you're from Colorado. You said you're newer to whitetail hunting. So I'm assuming you grew up doing more of the Colorado like elk,
Yep.
mule deer, antelope, mountain hunting.
Yeah, so
And
like this is my 21st season bow hunting, and this is my 7th season whitetail hunting. So I've been,
okay,
it's kind of the opposite, you know. I have these dreams of going out east and hunting whitetails, and all these guys are, you know, flocking over here to hunt the elk, the mule deer, and the antelope. And
right.
you know, at this point in my hunting career, I'm totally okay with putting the western stuff on hold to go chase whitetails.
Yeah, well, you get the lucky part of it, man. Like coming east to hunt, you probably don't feel like it. But I would rather hunt elk on weekends and make a whitetail trip than hunt whitetails on weekend and only get to do one elk trip.
Sure.
You know?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? Because like I feel that there's so much prep that goes into a successful whitetail season that the
True.
chances of you going out for a day or 2 days or 3 days and shooting a big deer is very small. Whereas there's so much public ground here in Colorado, you
Yeah.
can go out, do your e-scouting, get into an area where they're living and get lucky, you know.
Yeah. I
It's
see what you're
just
saying.
it's the driving part, you know. And
Yeah.
going into a whitetail spot where you have zero intel. I mean, shoot, like I said, we saw that deer one time. How the heck is a 180-inch deer living in a 200-acre property and you see him one time? You know, it's just they're so good at living in small areas where these elk, you know, 2 miles in a day is nothing. It's like you walking out your front door, you know. So there's that side of it too. And don't get me wrong, like I love elk hunting. It's super fun. Antelope hunting is also, it's a blast, you know, and those are those over the counter opportunities that you just get a couple buddies and take a
Yeah.
week off work and get in the truck and go, you know. And it's
Oh,
a
yeah.
super cool experience to be able to do that, but it's also very different, you know. It's a different skill set, you know. I
Oh,
think elk hunting is checkers where whitetail hunting is chess, you know. That's kind of how I look at it.
yeah. And archery hunting antelope is just pure insanity.
It's terrible. It's the dumbest thing you could ever do with a bow.
Unless you sit ground blinds on water, but that's not
Yeah.
my imagination. That's not what I
I
picture.
can't do it. Yeah. I mean, I've done it before and it's very similar. Like we go down and we hunt Texas for whitetails a bunch, and you know, October time frame, it's, you know, 95 degrees and 90% humidity. It's, you know, 0% humidity and 120 degrees in the blind for antelope. So it's tough to sit there for 14 hours in 120-degree heat.
Yeah, no, thank you. I will spot and
Yeah.
stock them. But I
Yeah.
was curious. So, was the cutter stabilizers, was that born before like the whitetail bug bit you? And of like a, you know, your logo is obviously an antelope. Was that kind of
Yep.
started on the Western hunting side of things,
For
or
sure.
did it
Yep.
jump? Okay, was it hunting or
Yep.
was it target? Because it can go both ways.
It was hunting. So
Okay,
let's kind of take a step back here and look at like how I wanted to build this brand.
sure.
Which in all reality, in the hunting side of things, it's brands that are selling. It's not products. You know, at the end of the day, there's a lot of really good products out there, but if you don't have a brand that people recognize and appreciate and respect, you're not going to sell a stinking thing. So that was one of the things that I really wanted to focus on, was building a stabilizer that was for hunters first. You know, 95% of these stabilizer brands are target first and hunting is an afterthought. You know, let's chop our target bars down and market them for hunting. It's just, it is how it is. You know, big money's in the target side, but I've never been a target guy. I've always been a bow hunter. So I wanted to do something that was for the bow hunter, by the bow hunter, you know, had everything that we needed, which is very different than target. You know, we need durability, we need forgiveness, we need lighter weight components, we need things that are going to help us. So the cutter idea, the reason that we use the antelope is that's kind of where I realized that I needed a smaller diameter stabilizer. You know, I was shooting at an antelope at like over 70 yards in a 30-mile-an-hour crosswind and getting blown all over the place. I'm like, there's got to be something here. You know, there's micro diameter arrows and they do better in a crosswind. Why wouldn't that apply for a stabilizer? So that was the first step to the puzzle, is figuring out how we can make a sub half-inch diameter stabilizer stiff enough and super lightweight to stand up to a hunting application. The second step was, how do I get all this stuff to be sourced 100% from within the US, which every single component, piece, part, and process is from within our country and supporting American manufacturing, which I was not going to do without achieving that goal.
Right. That's awesome. I mean, it's hard. Like
It is, for sure.
It's hard to not, like, it's not hard to just say, well, it's going to cost more. Right?
Yeah.
Well, it is going to cost more, but like not everything is typically made in America, unfortunately.
Right.
Like,
Yep.
thank God you don't have electronics on board, because you'd be sunk.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Right.
there's silicon's made in China. There's like the way it is. And so like, yeah, you're like, oh, I need this part, and there's a bunch of them in China, and I can't even find one, regardless of how much it costs here.
Yep.
Like, you have to make new stuff, or have companies
Exactly.
like, willing to make new stuff for you, which is not easy either.
No.
How many of
there
these do
was,
you want? Like, yeah, like 100? Yeah, no thanks.
Yep. There was one point where I had purchased every stainless steel set screw in the entire country, and it wasn't enough to fulfill my order. Like, there's just not a lot of places that are making this stuff here, and it's
like
definitely
the black oxide would cause like rust issues. Like you wanted stainless so it wouldn't have
Yep.
any...
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yep. Yeah, so the majority of our hardware is stainless unless it's visible, which then we go to black oxide because bow hunters don't like shiny things.
Right.
But yeah, I mean it's definitely had its challenges, but to me it was a non-negotiable. There's to my knowledge, I don't know of any other companies that are in the stabilizer game that are 100% US made and manufactured. So I take great pride in that and making that a reality.
Oh yeah, anything American made. I mean, like my beard oil company is American assembled, right? Like I buy all the natural raw products, mix them all together, bottle, label, everything. That's all done in America. But a lot of the oils are not coming from America. So
Sure.
it's like a lot of companies will play nuances with that whole made in America or American made title. And a lot of people say, oh, it's made in America, right? Like I put it together in America.
Yep.
Which is better. It's a step
Sure.
closer, but you're still using a bunch of stuff from overseas, right? So there's levels to it. And to do say like, yeah, everything is completely from the U.S. is a huge accomplishment.
It is. And it was also a pivotal factor in how we were able to grow as well as we did. So we launched the company in June of 2019. Then COVID hit in 2020. And all of these other carbon products are imported. So they were waiting on stuff. We weren't waiting on anything. We were full speed ahead, didn't have to wait on import times, and people are looking for stuff to do outside. So it was a very perfect storm of growth to happen. So we jumped up both in revenue and in brand recognition super quickly. And I'm very grateful for that. And as far as the pandemic went with affecting things, I think it was a good thing for the growth of Cutter.
Oh, well, that's good. I mean, unfortunately, not a lot of people can say the same thing, but it's good that it worked out for you, and it's good that it worked out for the business that way. And so now you've got 4 seasons, 5. I suppose you're about to complete your 5th year, right? June 2024 would be your 5th year, and so things are really well established, and you got lots of products. But let's maybe take a quick step back and just describe what is, besides the micro diameter, what is something someone's going to notice with a cutter stabilizer versus let's go to the extreme example where they're I don't know, I found this $20 rubber thing at the archery store and I screwed it into my bow.
Sure.
What is somebody going to notice that's different between a high quality stabilizer versus maybe the 4-inch rubber thing that they picked up? Because I remember when I switched to a target bar with some weight, I was like, oh my God, this is a different bow.
Yeah. So let's first just glance over what a stabilizer's job is, right? It should, number 1, stabilize, which that's in the name. Number 2, it should have some form of vibration dampening. Yeah. Those little rubber dampeners, they don't offer the stabilizing side, right? So in a perfect world, a stabilizer, the rod itself would weigh nothing, and we would have weight on the end. Obviously, we can't have something that weighs nothing. So we took it upon ourselves to make that bar weigh as little as possible. So like between our shortest hunting bar and our longest hunting bar, which is a 6-inch and a 15-inch, there's 1 ounce of difference. So our shortest bar is 1.9 ounces. Our longest bar is 2.9 ounces. So remarkably light.
Right.
Then you take the option to add that external weight. So you can screw the weights into the end. All of that gives you the ability to balance your bow exactly how you personally need it to balance. So it's all modular, right? We do 1 ounce increment weights. And then we took, drives me nuts, right? Because we have several other micro diameter bars on the market. They have a big rubber dampener on the outside of the bar.
Yeah.
What is the point of making the bar small if you're going to put something gigantic on the outside to, get rid of vibration? So we took all of our vibration dampening material, housed it inside of that super small carbon bar. So we fully get to utilize that small footprint and get the best aerodynamic properties available. So take all that and throw in, high modulus carbon. So for any hunting application up to, I'd say, 8 ounces of weight, those bars with that carbon are going to be phenomenal for any hunting application.
Okay. Yeah, that's interesting because I was thinking about my bar, and you could probably guess it's one of the most common, entry-level brands out there. It's a 10-inch bar. I got discs on the end. So, yeah, the bar is small, but like you said, I got a can out on the end that's probably, the size of a baseball almost. We had a camera malfunction.
Sorry, dude. Hold on.
Did it vibrate and fall over?
Sure did.
That's okay.
Yep.
Real life. This is the real life. But yeah, like you said, it's got that big rubber dampener with the, discs. And so it's like, I haven't noticed it yet, but when you say that, it's starting to click in my mind. Like, that's why my bow moves. Like, it's like the opposite at that point. Like when I start and I shoot indoors with this big stabilizer, like it's hard to move your pin. Like that's the point. Your pin moves slower. Well, when you're in the wind, it's like, man, this thing's like faster. Like, and it's not like, it just feels goofy, right? Because it's coming from the end of your bow.
Yep.
And so it makes sense. It makes a lot of sense. But I'm shooting, I think, a 12-inch bar with 3 or 4 ounces out front. And then I have like a 6-inch back bar with like 6 or 8 ounces. So my bow in my hand almost wants to rise up.
Sure.
So I don't, because I was having a problem almost. Like I couldn't get my pin up to the target. And I was an idiot. I didn't know anything. I'm just shooting this paper league, right? And I'm trying to just keep my point was to keep my shoulder in shape over the winter.
Sure. Yep.
And so, but then once you shoot paper league, then you put a score to it, and everyone wants a better score. And so I'm asking questions, and these guys that have been shooting their entire lives, retired guys at the shop are like, well, yeah, if you can't, like I'm telling them, like, man, it's like hard to get my pin up. Like, do you guys have that problem? And like, well, no, but that's because you got too much front weight. I'm like, what? I didn't know anything. And so they're like, yeah, here. We did a bunch of stuff, and all of a sudden it's like, whoop, too much. Now I can't bring my pin. Now my pin wants to float away on me. And so we fine-tuned it. Now my bow just sits where it wants to be. But the difference that made on an indoor range was phenomenal. But now I'm thinking, like, yeah, if you're antelope hunting and you had like a normal Wyoming wind at 30 miles an hour, that thing's gonna be blowing all over the place. Almost be better to take it off.
Yeah, definitely. And that's another thing that we've seen, and that I think has helped us as far as the brand is. I take a lot of pride and I take a lot of time into that educational side of it. The back bar, the dual stabilizer system is still fairly new for the hunting side of things.
I have never seen anyone that I archery hunt with, which is like, I don't know, probably I've hunted from anywhere from like a dozen to 2 dozen different people. I think I've had one person had a back bar, and he was like an archery fanatic.
Yeah. It's crazy. And so we've gone to a couple, we like to go to like the TAC events and like that style of event, right? And I'll always ask people, it's like, do you know why people put 2 bars on their bow? And I have no idea. It looks cool, or something like that, And I'll kind of run them through it. And the easiest way that I like to explain it is, number one, all of your accessories are mounted on one side of the bow, right? Sight, rest, quiver, all that stuff.
Yeah.
The natural tendency of the bow is to want to tip to that side. So we have 2 options. We can apply a bunch of hand torque to get that bubble level to sit in the middle for us, which obviously hand torque isn't repeatable. If you've ever tried to, broadhead tune your bow, and you put hand torque in it, it makes it a mess. So the other option is to put a stabilizer on that side to offset those accessories. The second benefit is, like you mentioned, you can stabilize that bow forward to backward, vertically.
Right.
So having that, it's a natural tendency for every bow, every archer is to drop out of the bottom of the target because gravity exists, right? It's pulling us down. It's always going to be easier to go with gravity. So adding more weight to the back of your bow is going to push that pin upwards. So it's good that you were able to discover that, because that's a fairly good starting point. 2 times the amount of weight on your back bar that you have on the front. So that's generally where I'll start people out. If they got 3 on the front, they should start with 6 on the back.
Yeah. And your back bar is typically shorter too.
Depends. So
unless you're like a lot of target archers have really long back bars, but
yeah. So the question that I like to ask is, would you rather have a lighter overall bow or a more compact overall bow? We think about the length of the lever, right? The longer the lever, the less weight we need. So you see a lot of guys out here that have the longer bars. 15 front and a 12 back is a fairly common application for Western hunting. That's because you can get away with maybe 6 total ounces of weight on those bars, whereas if you had an 8 off the front and a 6 off the back, you're going to need closer to double that.
Right.
But if you're hunting in a ground blind or a box blind every single day, trust me, I've done it. A 15-inch bar in a box blind is a pain in the ass. And don't get me wrong, I've shot 2 deer in Texas out of box blinds with that 15-inch bar sticking out the front window. So you can do it, but it just becomes a little bit more cumbersome.
I had I think it was actually doe, and I was sitting with my wife, girlfriend at the time, and I drew back, and then I had to wait. Almost spilled water. And then I had to wait. Like as soon as I drew back, this deer just turned front to us, head down, like I'm facing us, like full frontal. I'm like, oh, I'm not shooting a full frontal. That's a terrible idea. And so I'm sitting there, and then I'm like, oh hey, and my bar, the big rubber donut on my bar, was at the perfect spot where I just like lowered my bow and just rested that on the windowsill, and I just waited, and then she turned sideways like 2 minutes later, and I lifted up and whack, got her. But that's the only time it's ever come in as like a clutch. Every other time it's draw back and thunk, you hit the metal on and then everything's over. Sure. So, and that's only a 10-inch. I can't imagine a 15-inch bar.
Right. And that's, personally, that's kind of my go-to. I do a 15 off the front and a 10 off the back, just so I can keep the bow lighter overall, and that's the easiest way to decrease the overall weight of your bow. Number one, our stabilizers are ridiculously light, so that helps a lot. But lengthening that lever will allow you to take some of the weight off of the end there. There's a reason target archers are shooting with 30-inch front bars.
Yeah, but target bows are also pretty heavy. I mean,
they are,
some of them can be super heavy. I had one guy had a bow and he had a sidebar. He wanted hand torque. I don't know if this is his style, but he wanted his bow to turn away or turn into his grip. So I don't know what he was trying to do. He was a really good shot, way better than me, so maybe I should have listened. But he wanted to turn his hand closed against that bow and then find that sweet balance point.
Sure.
I was like, that seems like way out of my pay.
Yeah, target archery is crazy, man. Yeah, like I got a couple buddies that are fairly high level target shooters, and one extreme example is one of my buddies has a 30-inch front bar with 18 ounces of weight on the front and 39 ounces on his back bar. That's a lot of weight. It's a lot of freaking weight, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's not ounces, that's pounds. Like we're now talking about 3.5 pounds.
Crazy. Yep, it's insane. And that's, like I said, that's never been my game, so I rely on my team for the knowledge there. But yeah, I mean, it's different for everyone, right? And finding the setup that works the best for you. Like I hunted whitetail all year with that 15-inch front bar out of tree stands and out of the saddle, and I never had an issue with it. So, a lot of times people will say that, oh, it's too long. If your arrow is always going to be sticking out farther than that when you have an arrow knocked, number one. Right. Number two, for hiking around in the woods and squeezing through tight spots, if I'm worried about a 1/2 inch, 15-inch bar going through a hole in the brush, my big ass probably isn't going through there either. You know
I
what I
will.
mean?
I would actually say the opposite. I like having once I put the bar on my bow, it's a lot. I enjoy it more because it gives me like a unique handle for a lot of
Sure.
different things.
Yep.
I can hang it on a branch a lot easier.
Yep.
I can put it across my shoulders and hold on to that bar. There's a lot of cool things I can do that I never could do with
Definitely.
my short little, rubber waste of money.
For sure. Yeah.
So I like it. I like it a lot. Um, Now I think it's kind of like tall people just know when they instinctively know when they have to duck. Like
Mm-hmm.
you learn where the limit is enough and you get used to it and then you just
Sure.
adapt. Like, oh,
Right. Yep.
when I do this in the tree stand, I gotta, go up and over, or you just figure it out. I don't think it's that much
Sure.
of an
Yep.
issue, but when it
Definitely.
comes to, so before someone gets their cutter stabilizer in the mail, obviously you have to build it, you have to design it. And so I'm guessing there was a heavy round of prototyping, trial and error, does this component right? Is that component right? But you get it all said and done. Like you go through that iterative process, you're finding stuff, but now you've made it. You decided what you want. What's like the next step in like getting that out there? Because I've found, and a lot of people that we've talked to on the show, the easiest part actually turned out to be designing the product.
Yep.
Like that was a straightforward, like it might not have been cheap, it might have not have been fast, but it was a straightforward, process. They knew what they had to do. And then a lot of people either take one of two routes. They're instinctive product marketers and branding folks, or they're not. And I'm in the not. I'm an engineer. And
Yep.
so then they're like, I don't know what it's hard to get it out there. Like that is by far the challenging part. Like you said earlier, like it's not the product, it's the brand. And
Yep.
so how did you go like, hey, we've got a really good product here. We've got we found something with this. What did you do with it then? Like how did you get in the last 4 years to where you are today?
Yeah. So going back to the beginning, I'll preface this with before I started Cutter, I worked in the automation industry. I was building robotic systems
Okay.
in a machine shop. So I had a good foundation of that side of it. I would say that my strength is always in the creative realm of things. So writing blogs, writing articles, designing content, doing video stuff, all that stuff is fun to me, So I was in a very unique place with a mechanical background, but with also the enjoyment of the creative side. So I find this product, and I find that there's a hole in the market for this product,
Hmm.
both in the product itself and the knowledge of how this can help normal everyday bow hunters find success more often. So I've always been, over the counter, public land type of hunting. So I'm not fine. It's 7% success rate here in Colorado for archery with a bow for over the counter
Yeah,
elk.
it's low.
It's very low. And I realized that in the beginning, 1 week a year, that's very realistic. That's what most people are able to spend out hunting, So it was creating this brand of recognizing and understanding that people are spending their hard-earned money on these products for this very, very short window of time to do what they love. And making sure that these products are the absolute best that they can possibly be to fit that window and make sure that they can solely focus on what they're out there to do, which is, notch a tag. Not worry about their gear letting them down, which is the absolute worst thing. If you're out in the woods and your gear fails you and your 1 week of vacation is wasted, it's a damn shame. So making sure that that wasn't going to happen and really marketing to that type of person that, number one, cares about their setup, right? Very rarely we're selling to the guys that are showing up a week before season and say, hey, I need a new bow. I got a
Yeah.
bow hunt coming up. You know what I mean? It's the guys that are taking the time in the off season to learn their bow, to hone their craft, and they want the best possible gear available and the most precise, most durable gear available. Um, and then also knowing that it's coming from within our country and supporting our economy, it's an easy sell, you know.
Yeah. No, that's it definitely makes it a lot and a lot easier of a conversion process, right? To get because that's what every sale is a process of converting someone from like your idea to how it can help them, to are they willing and able to pulling the trigger, right?
Yep.
And so when you can stack all of those things, like, I've been there before, I've done hunts, and man, like when something wasn't quite right with my bow, like I didn't really like the way it was shooting. Like, yeah, I'd kill an elk at 20, but I don't know if I'm gonna take a 60-yard shot this week. Like,
Right.
that feeling where you're just,
Yep, totally.
it's terrible. Like, it's like you're
It is
every step
terrible.
through the woods, you're terrified that an elk's gonna
Yeah.
walk out at 60, and you're gonna have to make that choice, or you're gonna send an arrow and it's not gonna land where you wanted it to.
Yep.
It's awful. So I get it. I definitely get that. So once you kind of knew like what you wanted to build, was there a big gap between like I know the brand I need to build and then actually getting there, like getting that brand to be recognized on the other end of the conversation with the consumer, like to get them to understand what your brand is? Like, seems like that could be
Um,
the like a big like disconnect of like,
for sure, right? And you're the biggest hurdle I would say is just time. You know, we're going against quote unquote titans of industry, you know, that have been here since the beginning. You know, Bee Stinger is the Kleenex of stabilizers. You know, it is what it is. They've been around for so long that it's become a household name, and it just takes time to get to that point. And most small businesses are not around. I think it's like 3 years as the normal lifespan of a small business between startup and the end of it. So finding ways to be stubborn enough to make sure that you do succeed is huge. And
yeah,
constantly improving the products, coming out with new products that are not just SKU fillers, but are actually useful to the industry. So like we didn't start out with a back bar bracket and with the front quick disconnect. Those were introduced later on down the line as, solutions to problems that I felt existed with what was currently on the market.
yeah,
So showing that we are walking the walk as well, going to these events. No, none of these other companies are going to TAC and sitting there and talking to 2,000 people over a weekend and sharing knowledge with them. It's super important to me to, share the knowledge that I've gained over these 15 years of working on bows and being in the bow shops and, seeing these problems that these customers have and teaching them how to fix them.
yeah.
It's very empowering for someone to learn that stuff. It's just the teach a man to fish thing, right?
Oh yeah, yeah. I mean, I like. It felt different. It felt like I was more in control when I started learning why, like the why things were happening when I was shooting, like why I couldn't get my pin up, and then, well, it's because of this and that and the other thing, and then how to fix them. That's the why and the how are important. I think like, one of the things you kind of touched on a little bit, with the companies that are in there, they just sell the what, right? They're
Yep.
just here's this. You need a stabilizer. There's a bunch of stabilizers. They're on the shelf.
Sure.
They're never really talking about the why or the how. There's no person, there's no Earl on the other side of the product that, like you said, is out there like, yeah, this is why. Here, try this, this, and this, and then
Yep.
they go out and shoot another 50 at TAC and like, holy crap, my score jumped up by like 15-20%.
Oh yeah.
Isn't crazy? Yeah, and you're like, yeah, well,
Yep.
it is. That's the why
Yeah,
and the
it's
how.
super cool, man. Like we'll have guys that'll come in and come to the booth and get bars at the beginning of the day, and then they come back and their freaking face is lit up and like, oh, I smoked all my buddies. They're all pissed now. It's the best.
And then you
It's
sell
so
four
cool
more
to
bars.
exactly. Yep. It's so cool to see that, these guys are feeling it and seeing it firsthand, and there's plenty of products out there that people are blowing smoke up your ass just to get a sale, and then stabilizers is definitely not one of those things. It's just it's getting past that preconceived notion of I'm just adding more junk to my bow for no reason. And
Yeah.
yeah, definitely not the case. So I would say the number one factor to finding success with building a brand is learning how to relate to your customers.
Oh, yeah. And then I imagine, the to build like a truly iconic brand, it takes a lot, right? There's
It
never going
does.
to be one successful thing, but I think in every recipe, consistency and repetition are like the things you measure out with the cups, not the teaspoons.
Exactly. Yep.
Like
And having a good logo really helps. I got really lucky with that logo. I'm pretty stoked on that. I still love it every time I look at it. I was like, that's a freaking cool logo.
yeah. How did you come up with the name Cutter?
So antelope, the prongs on the front of their horns, they're called
Oh,
cutters, is another
duh.
name for them. Yep.
I've always called them
Um,
diggers.
yeah, yeah. So there's several different names for them, but that was like one of our first like taglines was cut the wind, cut the weight, sacrifice nothing. So
Oh,
cutting through the wind being the smaller diameter. So it's just a little play on words there.
oh yeah, that's pretty sweet. It all ties together though. I mean, that's like a good brand really does all tie together. I mean, I don't know what kind of saddle you run. You talked about saddle hunting, but like Tethered,
Yep.
for example,
Yep.
really hit the nail on the head with their
They
title
did.
because like
Yep.
what do you want to if you're going to be hanging from a tree, like you really want to make sure you're tethered to that
Sure. Yep.
thing.
Definitely.
And so I think there's a lot of cool brands like that. Um, the Western space seems like there's a lot of cool ones like Onyx,
Hmm.
Go Hunt,
Yep.
like these brands that really nailed it
Yep.
when they came out with their stuff. And then Cutter Stabilizers, same thing. Like it's really interesting. I went maybe more surface level with all of my stuff, and it's like, yeah, it works. You can either be really, I feel like you can be really innovative with your name, which helps, never hurts, or you can just spend a lot of time getting people to recognize the other, just the your name for what it is.
Yep.
And so, like, I did, my product is Bull Elk Beard Oil. Just,
Nice.
I don't know, just that's what
Yeah,
I
it's
love.
cool.
It's got the
Hmm.
elk logo. I did all that stuff. It really doesn't like it's not that next level deep like Cutter or Tethered, some of these other brands that have like layers to their branding and their logo
Sure.
and their image, but it's all right.
No,
It's
it's cool.
it still is. Once I started coming up with like the podcast names, then I started thinking things through a little bit more.
Yep.
And
It's
that's how I
tough,
got to
man.
like,
Branding stuff is one of the hardest things that there is to do. And there's really no shortcut to it. You either got to pay someone a big fat pile of money to do it for you, or you got to sit and beat your head against the wall for a while and hope it comes to you.
well, and what I don't like, and it's probably just my nature, everything else I do is like, there's one way to do it. Like I'm an
Hmm.
engineer, like math,
Sure.
like there's pretty much one way to do math.
Yep.
Like, yeah, there's a couple different ways you can add up two numbers, but there's only one answer.
Right.
And
Yep.
there's
Totally.
like a set of scripts you could use or formulas that you can use and you'll get the right answer.
Makes
Right?
sense.
That's
Yeah.
with a lot of things. Designing a product, like you need, a bottle, you need a dropper, you need the oil, you need the, ratio of the mixture. If you never change the ratio, the scent will never change. Got that locked down. You can learn that stuff. There's tons
Yep.
of resources out there. Branding, I feel like, is the opposite. It's an art. There's no right answer. There's no great place to go learn it other than doing it.
Right.
And you don't like learn it, teach it. This doesn't come naturally to me anyway. Like
No.
that's why I'm wondering if it's like you're gonna be a class in high school, like branding, social media, digital advertising, content creation. Like these are just electives in the future because
Yeah.
it's
I think there
almost
will
unless
be.
you just go get a job, they're all required.
Sure. Yep. Yeah, I think it's going that way. Amongst a bunch of other weird shit that's going to be starting to get taught in high schools. But I mean, it's tough, man, and that side of it for sure. And it takes time and it takes creativity, and that that brain skill set is definitely something that you either have it or you don't.
Yeah, and one of the things I like about the brand that you guys have built is you have a lot of social credibility.
Yep.
Like you have a lot of people. Like I can scroll through the Cutter page and I can see people I recognize shooting their bow with a Cutter stabilizer on it, whether it's the a 15 inch or a 10 inch or whatnot. Like, oh, I know
Yep.
that person. I know that person. I know that person. It's like, oh, I was talking to that person yesterday. You have a lot of social credibility. What's the process for a brand? And I think a lot of the brands, actually, I'm looking at two people right now that I've had conversations with both of them. I met that person on a mountain, and we're just hunting the same mountain together. Um, but what's the process for like getting a full, content strategy? Because that's another hard part, especially you probably felt it when you were new too. You're like, man, we got to post stuff, but I don't want to post me every week or
Yeah.
every
Oh
day.
yeah. Yep.
And it's like we gotta, how do you get this ball rolling? And do you do a lot of just like, hey, can we mind if we repost that and or send us that picture? That's a great
Yeah.
picture, we love it, like that kind of thing. I mean,
So,
obviously you're gonna have the faithful followers like your friends and
yep.
family that'll just send
Hmm.
you stuff and do whatever to help, but
Yep.
beyond that.
Social media is social media for me is like your kryptonite for doing the brand stuff. I hate it. I can't stand it. I absolutely cannot stand it. In the beginning, in the early stages of the brand, it was like, well, shit, either I'm going to pay someone to model these new shirts and hats or I'm going to do it myself because I'm cheap. And I ended up going that second route. So as far as like the posting and the user generated content stuff, that's it's come to, well, number one, now I have someone that does it for me, which is great. If you have that in your budget, highly recommend it because you don't ever have to worry about it again. They're doing it. They'll send you their plan of what they're going to do at the beginning of the month, and you say, cool, have fun. But
Yeah.
yeah, finding someone that social media is huge, right? And there is a wrong way to run a social media page, which I found pretty quickly because as soon as I turned the page over to someone that actually had the experience, we gained a lot of followers really fast. It's like, well, crap, I've been holding this thing back. So I think high quality content is the most important thing. It doesn't
Right.
matter what it is. If it's a really good looking picture of something that's super cool that pertains to your brand, that's what it's got to be. Not low quality, grainy, shaky cell phone picture of something that. High quality content's number one. User generated content is also very, very important. Meaning when people see someone that's not related to the brand using the brand, they are able to
Right.
associate that person with themselves. So that's super important, and it's not just all pictures of people that work for Cutter shooting the bars. Like there is a place for that because you can really tailor that content to be exactly what you want.
Right.
But at the end of the day, like hunting season's great because we get tons of photos that come in from people that have killed cool stuff and they're sharing that photo, and it feels good when a brand reposts your picture. Like you're like, yeah, that's me on that company's page. And
Right.
they show their buddies and it feels good. So it usually doesn't take a whole lot to get user generated content. The problem lies in the off season when there is no hunting going on, and you have to figure out something to post that's not stupid nonsense that people can see
Right.
right through, and it's just filler content.
Right. And so is that when you like switch things up and maybe do like educational content or entertaining content or just have some stuff in the backlog, switch to shooting
Yep.
like events? I mean, indoor archery is obviously a great way to have an in-season topic when hunting is over, right? Because a
Sure.
lot of archery leagues start up about now and run for like the next 2 or 3 months.
Yep. Yeah. So definitely you nailed it. So we have obviously target season, which is good. I also, this year, I put a really big focus on filming content for my hunts. So that helps a lot, whether it's, actually hunting content or just high quality 4K B-roll stuff. You can use that stuff very easily. Um, but then you have the educational stuff as well. And then before too long, we're in March and April and it's turkey season. and it's, spring bear season. I've got a trip to Lanai planned for May this year for Axis, so we're filling stuff in slowly but surely, and then after that it's tack, and it's that kind of content, and then we're right back into hunting season.
Would you say that like social media is where the brand is built with a like a direct to consumer product company, or do you guys have like a big YouTube page or like
100% social media.
yeah,
YouTube page has been very, very lackluster up until this point.
yeah,
So it's, Instagram to YouTube has become easier now that YouTube does the shorts, which is, vertical format,
right.
minute or less video. There's your reel, you post it to YouTube, and you're done. So the cross-platform stuff becomes easier. But yeah, that's another thing that we really stressed in the growing process was that organic growth. So like, I still to this day, I will not pay someone to have an exclusivity clause. It's cheesy to me. It's cheap.
Right.
I want these guys that are using the products to use what they want. And if that's me and my products, awesome, cool. If it's not, and you're gonna use them because you're getting a paycheck from it, then that feels like a bought and paid for type of thing. It's an unfortunate truth that there is people out there that will hunt with the stuff that they like and then change to the products that they're getting paid for the trophy photos, and it's unacceptable to me, and I don't think that should ever be how it is, but it does happen.
Yeah. I mean, that bothers me so much that, I only work with brands that I choose. Like I
As you should,
approach,
as it should be.
and we're not huge. It's not like I'm saying like, oh, I've turned down all these companies that wanted to work with me. But there has been a few times an entity has reached out, and a lot of times I'll know before we even start talking. And sometimes it's not even like, let's just say like a camo inventor, a camo pattern, a camo brand reaches out and says, "Hey, we'd love to work with you." Sometimes it's not even that I don't think your stuff is as good. It's just that I use this other stuff and I love it so much I have no desire to switch.
Yeah, it's just
I,
that Sitka is the best. That's all there is to
well,
it.
I happen to be wearing a Sitka sweatshirt and a Sitka hat, and I wear pretty much all Sitka. But so like the example was like First Light, Kuiu, some of these other brands. I'm sure they're just as good. I'm sure
Yeah.
if I used them, I'd be like, yeah, this stuff's great. But I love
Yep.
like I'm so happy with what I have. I just have no desire to change.
Sure. Yeah. And
You know?
another side of that is like, I mean, that's a good, I also wear Sitka. You get to a point where you have $7,000 worth of this shit and you don't want to change because that's a lot
I'm
of
to the point
stuff
where
to figure out
almost
again.
everything's in the same pattern too. I don't even want a new pattern.
Oh God, I've got my Western stuff and my whitetail stuff at this point. And
I
I
wear
just very
all
thankful that I haven't gotten into waterfowl yet because that's a whole nother thing.
yeah. Although shotgun stabilizers could be an interesting thing. It's never been
Yeah,
done
oh
before.
God. Yeah, I know.
No, I just wear the open country, like the
Yep.
sheep hunting pattern, because it's like
Yep.
halfway in between both, and I'll wear that waterfowl hunting too. I mean,
Yep.
I think I got my first what is it, EV, the green and the greener shade, or
Subalpine's the
subalpine.
green one.
Yeah,
Yep.
yeah. I got my first shirt for Christmas in that color, and I was like super happy because it's my favorite like
Yeah.
item to wear. It's one of the
Yep.
like ones you always wear. I'm like,
Yep.
okay. It's a Christmas present. I love it,
Yep.
but
Oh
but
yeah.
yeah, no. And then there's other companies where they'll reach out and be like, "Hey, you want to wear our camo?" And I'm like, "Absolutely not. Like, I will never wear that.
Yeah.
You are
Yep.
selling camo denim jeans. Like, that's
Yep.
not gonna work.
Hmm.
And I just won't even respond.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's one of the reasons why I won't ever sign a bow contract is, I choose the bow that I'm the most excited about when it comes out. And, at this point in my life, I am a new bow every year kind of person. And it
That's
just
like
is
a
what it
life
is.
goal for a lot of people, man. Like
It
I
is.
am the first to say, "Congrats, you made it." That's a
Well,
cool
it
feeling
definitely it helps that I've
in the
worked in a
bow
bow shop
industry.
for 10
Yeah.
years, so that's, I still work 1 day a week at the bow shop here locally, in Denver, and I'm lucky that it is one of the best bow shops in the country, number one. Um, but I'm straight up with people when they come in and they want this nice stuff, and they're looking stressed out. I'm like, dude, I'm gonna be honest with you. I'm not paying full retail for any of this stuff. I've told you what I use, and it is top end stuff, but I am not paying full retail, and you will put yourself in a really bad place if you try to play keeping up with the Joneses with this archery stuff. I want you to get the stuff that you can afford and upgrade when you can. It's a real thing that's not talked about in the industry. Is none of these influencer guys are paying for their stuff. It is what it is.
Well, and I would say, what also archery is very funny. Um, I suppose rifle is kind of the same way. Maybe I think rifle probably went through this a while ago, and archery is just getting there now, where you're really not getting anything new. Like
Yeah,
bows have not done anything mind breaking in the last 10, 15 years. Like you could go and pick up a bow that was made in the last 10 years by any of the primer or the premier brands. So Hoyt,
yep,
Matthews, PSE, Bowtech, throw a few more in there.
yep,
You buy any of their bows in the last 10 years and you're getting 95% of the
sure, yep,
quality, of the innovation, of the features, and
mm-hmm,
that bow will last you a lifetime.
yep, definitely,
And there's probably, I mean, you start to look at the math behind archery, there probably isn't going to be any groundbreaking changes unless we invent new elements or new compounds.
yep,
Like, there's only so much energy you can put into a set of limbs.
right,
And they're getting really close to the limit. Like you look at the
oh
math,
yeah,
and that's why you see now bows aren't they're not really coming out with new stuff. They're coming out with fine-tuned things for different size people, honestly. It's
yep,
different
definitely,
interests and different size people. So you can have, a big dude that likes, speed. So you give him a 34-inch bow that's a speed demon. You could have
yep,
a guy that's got a 25-inch draw and likes accuracy. So you give him a 28-inch bow with a higher brace height.
yep,
There's different
yep,
people like different things, but the technology really hasn't gone anywhere. I'd say crossbows is the opposite. Crossbows just went through their big jump. Like we're
yep,
probably getting
definitely,
to the end of it right now.
yep, yeah, and I think that that's what's going to happen with bows is they're going to focus on efficiency and making them more quiet. I think that's the next thing is the efficiency and the quietness of the bows. Because I
Yeah,
think the
and they're
speed, like you
still
said, is tapped out.
phenomenal. The speed's phenomenal. They're getting pretty efficient. I mean,
Oh yeah, yep,
like my wife just bought the new Hoyt Venom or VTM.
yeah,
She's 5'4" and she bought a 70-pound bow because it's so smooth to drop.
oh
She's
yeah,
shooting it at like 60,
yep,
61 pounds. And that's after 2 years of not pulling a bow back because she was in residency.
oh yeah, yeah.
She
Those
just went to
foot
the
cams
shop
are
and
crazy.
we're just like, the new cams, they're efficient. They're easy to draw. They're easy to store energy. They're a lot quieter than they used to be 20 years ago.
Yep. Oh yeah,
Like
definitely.
I started with the PSE Baby G-Force. That thing was terrible to shoot. Everything about
Yep,
that bow fought you.
yep. That was my first bow was a PSE Nova, and
Yeah,
yeah, it was slow, it was heavy, and oh man, they're different now. I've
and they
got
were they were they were they were moody, man. You had to do everything
oh
right.
yeah,
They
yep,
like they did not like any. They were like, forgiveness. What is that?
yeah, exactly.
I remember when I switched. I went from a PSE Baby G-Force, which was like a used bow when I was 12, to a
Hmm.
Matthews Halon when I graduated college,
Yep.
and it was like going from horses to jets.
Oh yeah. Yep.
It was insane the difference it made. And that's why
Oh
I
yeah.
say I think rifles went through that probably 50 years ago.
Yep. Hmm.
Like when you got to like the newer 300 calibers and the 270s and like not bolt actions, and it's like what has changed in the hunting rifle that you couldn't have gotten 95% of decades ago, you know?
Right. Right. Yep.
And now you're getting a couple of nuances like Creedmoors and PRCs and 28 Nosers. They're just fine tuning different aspects of it. But it's
Hmm.
like there's only so high of a ballistic coefficient you can get with a
Sure.
projectile going 3,000 miles per hour.
Exactly. Yeah. I
So
think the chassis stuff is kind of cool. I think that's kind of where people are going to start throwing their money around in the rifle side of it is
Oh, for
doing the
sure.
chassis.
They want something unique to them. And you see that with bows. You see two guys go into a bow shop, and one of them buys the black bow, the other one buys the camo bow, and they swap limbs. So now they each have
Yep.
half. And you see all kinds of personalization, which is
Yep.
fine. It's still fun. It's still fun to get a new bow.
For sure. Yeah. Oh yeah.
So I think it's, and then like, the accessories, I think we're seeing a lot of change. There's always innovation around accessories. It seems like there's always innovation around broadheads, even though it seems like the flat pieces of solid metal work pretty darn good.
Oh yeah.
Sharpen
Yep.
them, but yeah, you see stuff like cutter, you see stuff like painted arrow, different accessories to do, tools, not
Oh yeah.
just
Yep.
accessories, but functional
For sure.
accessories that you see a lot of
Yep.
nowadays, and I think it's pretty cool. So yeah,
Yeah,
it is sweet.
definitely.
It is
So
sweet to
yeah,
see.
it's fun. But
What is next on the horizon? So you kind of, it seems like you're probably exiting that like honeymoon business phase.
for sure. Yeah.
And
So
now
I'd
it's
say
like
like our
we got something rolling here. Like you got any big ideas that are able to share? Maybe not like specifics, but like what are some of the thoughts
product
you have?
wise, I can't really share anything product wise right
Right.
now, but I'd say that our organic direct to consumer growth phase is tapering down.
Yeah.
So our biggest focus is dealers at this point.
Okay.
Getting into pro shops, so like I firmly believe that archery pro shops are what's going to keep this industry going. As powerful as the e-com platform has become, there is no replacement for on hands real world knowledge, which is what the pro shop guys are going to give you. So I'll always
yeah.
suggest that going to your pro shop and talking to the guys that have done it, I'll always suggest that over going on YouTube and watching a video. It's
Because then you're just gonna instead of going to
yeah,
people that have done it, you're gonna go to people that probably actually haven't done it. They're just making a video
exactly.
about it.
Yep, exactly. Yeah. So that's
Yeah.
the pro shop thing is huge. Getting into making these things more accessible for people to get hands on them in person is kind of our focus now. And it's going well so far. We started really focusing on that, kind of unfortunately at the beginning of archery season last year. So it made it hard to get out and hunt as much as I would like.
Yeah.
Because these dealers were finding success, and it's been really interesting. And several dealers that we've got in touch with, they're like, "Oh man, I've been waiting for you guys to call. Like I thought you guys were only e-com. Like they're familiar with the products, they're familiar with the brand, and they're like, thank you for calling. Like let's get this thing going." So it's been super cool to see that kind of come full circle. And dealers is always the way to make your money the most efficiently, right? Because they're selling the products for you.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know. Part of me wants to fight that because you also have to pay them to sell their products for you.
Sure. Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And
And
it's just, but I see what
totally
you're
do.
saying. You're saying like I have one customer that I sell 100 to, and so
Sure.
like I personally make more like dollars per hour working with dealers than putting
Yep.
one box together to put one unit in a one label and your admin. I can see it. I don't know. Just I had the same way. Like I tried to get into barbershops, and then it was like a lot of work. And it was nice when you get them
Yep.
in and they buy 30 bottles at once. But then it's like I don't know. It kind of sucks selling stuff at like 40% less or 50%
Yeah. I mean,
less.
it's
But I get it.
either way, right? You're spending your money on marketing, or you're taking a hit on margins from a dealer.
I suppose that's true.
So
Like nothing's free. There's no such thing as a free
it's
lunch.
time or money for everything. And if you
Yeah.
want to save one, it's going to cost you the other.
I have a sneaking suspicion. Aside from extremes, like your Spot Hog Max or your HHA Kingpin, but like when you're in the middle, I have a sneaking suspicion the products that sell the best at dealerships are products that are like they can take it out of the box, give it to someone, they can take it in the back and shoot it 3 times and be like, "Yep."
Mm-hmm.
Because if there's like, for example, like if you thermal mold your clamshell together and staple it, like that dealer's
Yeah.
just not going to open the box because he can't put it back in and sell it.
For sure.
And so when he's like, hey, you want a stabilizer? Let's go open this cutter one, because I can open it up. I can screw it into your bow. You can shoot it. It's still brand new. I can put it back in the box and put it on the shelf if you don't want it. But man, if you've already got it on the guy's bow and he goes and shoots it, like, the sale is done.
Yep. Yeah, and another huge thing about the dealers is if you can get your stuff onto the people that work there, onto their bows, it's done. Because that's where you do run into the people that walk in and they're like, hey, I got a month before I go on this mountain goat hunt. Like, what would you recommend? I see you have this on your bow. Set me up. I don't care.
Right.
Set me up. I got to go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So having
would
that, go ahead.
Would you like give them then, if that was the goal, is like, hey, we got it. We need to get into this dealership. They want to work with us. Great. So we're going to get in. Would you even like send them a couple bars and be like, hey, these are for you guys, like you and the staff, just shoot them, see what you like. And
Yep.
then like just to hope
Yeah,
that they
so
leave it on their bow and that's their new
mhm.
stabilizer.
We have done that. Another thing that we do is we offer like a demo display setup for dealers,
Oh, so they don't
which
even
is
have to open the box.
huge.
They just take
It's
one out of the
huge.
thing
Yeah.
and
Yeah, so it's on like a nice display with a cool sign at the shop here in Denver at No Limits. I can't even tell you how many times that has come in because choosing the right length and weight for stabilizer, how the heck do you know if you don't try them, you know? And
yeah.
obviously most of the people at the higher end, they have access to, you know, either several different lengths and weights or they have a pile of weights at home or whatever. But giving the average consumer the opportunity to screw on all 5 different lengths and change weights around and figure it out, it's huge. And you give them, again, you give them the power to get exactly what they want.
Oh yeah, I've heard. I don't know where I heard it. I wish I knew because it'd probably speak to how credible it is. But I don't know if you drive a Ford pickup or not. Not that I'm judging you if you don't. I drive one. But Ford has, and I'm sure all the other companies have it too, where they have the build your own truck
Yep.
app on their website. And you can
Yep.
go and build any kind of truck you want. And I've heard it said that like if someone takes the time to build a truck, they're like double-digit percentages more likely to eventually buy that truck.
For sure. Yep.
And I've built millions of trucks on there. I've actually only bought one of them, but it worked. You know,
Oh yeah.
what
Yep.
did it cost them? $2 for my
Right.
time on their website. You know, building
Yep.
trucks over the years, and I've
Right.
bought in one of them, brand new truck. So, but it's the
Sure.
same thing with your system. Like, by the time they get through that process and they've like tried on 2 or 3 different bars and maybe switched out a couple different weights and then maybe added a back bar, and by the time they get done with that, like once again, the sale is done. Like they've figured it out and they've got that personal investment into this process of this decision. And they like the way it's shooting, right? Like they're always striving better, and then all of a sudden, like, what are they going to do? Take it all off and then not? No, that like it just, you know,
Yep.
it's almost like social engineering in a way.
For sure. Yep.
Yeah,
Definitely.
that's exciting. Yeah, well, I got a shop. I'm going to be going there tomorrow night. I'll let them. I'll go check their stabilizer section, see what they got, and on the off chance that they don't have yours yet, I'll get you guys in touch. It's not a big
Where are
shop.
you located?
Minnesota.
Okay. Yep.
It's not a huge shop. It's not the archery countries are pretty big around here. It's not archery country. It's
Yep.
a little smaller one, but they do 3D
Okay.
league and stuff there too. So they have like
Cool.
a full course.
Sweet. Yeah, we're working on getting up into the Midwest a little bit more. I think as of now we're at like 17 dealers around the country, so getting up in the Midwest is a big focus. And my business partner and his family's all up from Minnesota and Wisconsin, so
Oh, really?
that's what's next. Yep.
Awesome. Well, maybe we're right on the border of Wisconsin, so maybe you guys are already in there, which would be sweet.
Yeah, that'd be cool. But yeah, let me know and give you a full setup if you get us into a dealer.
Hey, that'd be sweet. I will. I'll give them your contact information, talk to them a little bit. But before that, before we wrap up this podcast, give the listeners a chance to follow along. What's the website? What's the latest and greatest news? And what do you want folks to know before we wrap up?
Yeah, so easiest way to shop our products is our website, cutterstabilizers.com. Instagram is Cutter Stabilizers Official. We're on YouTube. You should just search Cutter Stabilizers and it'll come up. We've got I'm working on the video for that Nebraska hunt kind of as we speak, so that'll be coming up there shortly. And then as far as like new exciting stuff coming up, um, other than event stuff, like we're going to a couple TACs and a couple other, 3D style events kind of out here in the West Coast and Western state stuff. But other than that, yeah, we got a couple products that are in the works. Can't really speak on any of that stuff right now, but I think it'll be some really awesome stuff that will make some people excited.
Awesome. Well, we will put links to all those places in the show notes for anyone that wants to go check out their new stabilizer that they're going to order. And also, it might work out good for your business partner if he's from the Wisconsin, Minnesota area. There is a big 3D bow fest. I think it's actually called Bow Fest.
Yeah, it is. Yep.
Yeah. Oh, man, you guys are already there. I was going to say it'd be great. It's kind of like Attack, probably not quite as big as Attack, but it'd be like the Midwest version of Attack. And
Yeah, and
be a cool place.
yeah, Bow Fest is like it's like a country music festival too, isn't it?
I think there is like I think it's like 5 days, and there's a lot
Yeah,
of music.
yeah.
I've never been there.
hmm
I'm supposed to go this year, but
Yeah,
I've heard
so
that it's like a concert too.
I've heard that that's kind of gone downhill from what it used to be, because like it used to be this like Woodstock of bow hunting and music stuff back in the heyday, and I've heard that it's not been as good lately. So you'll have to let me know of how it is this year, and
Yeah, I'll let you
might
know.
have
I'm
to
sure
show up
COVID
next year.
wrecked a whole bunch of stuff.
Oh yeah, probably.
So, but yeah, awesome. Well, once again, thank you for being here today, Earl, and thank you guys for listening, folks.